We value such opportunities as part of our pioneering journey, Luhambo lwemhlahlandlela. We have been part of this exciting journey since 2013, when the university was established. 2023 marks the 10th anniversary since the establishment of the university through a government gazette that was promulgated on the 22nd of August 2013. The university was officially launched on the 31st of October 2013. This indeed is an important milestone for our university and the UMP community as a whole. We will be celebrating 10 years of excellence and of creating opportunities. Today's public lecture is the first event of our build-up to the 10th anniversary that we are going to celebrate on the 3rd of November 2023. Our vision as the University of Mpumalanga is to be an African university leading in creating opportunities for sustainable development through innovation. This vision enjoins us to take the continent seriously and not only to pay lip service. We fully embrace the African continent and would like to play our part in ensuring that the continent attains its optimal functioning. We value and embrace our African identity, our Africanness. UMP, as an African university, seeks to recognize, affirm, and entrench the African experience and context in the academic project and overall operations of the university. We are guided in our ventures by the following values: excellence, integration, adaptability, relevance, and inspiration. Our values find expression in the public lecture this afternoon. Let us take this opportunity this afternoon to reflect on the value of Ubuntu. Let us reflect on our humaneness, our Africanness, and realize that umntu ngumntu ngabantu. We are interdependent and interconnected. Enkosi.
When you meet fellow African leaders, do not play the big brother. They will resent you. When you meet fellow African leaders, do not play small brother. They know you are big and they will be suspicious. Manage the relationship with brotherly consciousness. I'm paraphrasing, ladies and gentlemen, esteemed Vice Chancellor, the words of President Julius Kambarage Nyerere when he visited President Nelson Mandela in September of 1994. South Africa, in spite of the woes and difficulties this nation is going through, remains an epicenter of what we consider reconstruction and development for the African continent. 12 years after the conclusion of the infamous Berlin Conference, also known as the Congo Conference, that great assemblage of 14 European potentates in the capital of Germany, Berlin. And they came together to slice up the African continent, divide it among themselves, and recreate Africa in their own images. That's how we became known as South Africans, Southwest Africans, East Africans. And there was not one African present at that meeting. It lasted for, let's count, November, December, January, February. It's a long conference. And the preoccupation was to undo the African personality and turn them into that which they were not before. A South African teacher with a religious fervor by the name of Enoch Mankai Sontonga Pinga wrote a prayer hymn for schools, which became a prayer for the entire African family. Nkosi sikelela i-Afrika, malupakanyiswe uphondo lwayo. Yiva imithandazo yethu, Nkosi sikelela, thina lusapho lwayo. You will note that in that hymn, in that prayer, there is reference to Lupondo, which is a horn. This is 1897. Sontonga is pointing to the Horn of Africa, which is Ethiopia and modern Eritrea. At that time, Ethiopia was just emerging, as it were, out of a colonial war against Italy. A South African in Gauteng is praying for the entire African continent. In April 1906, there was a student at Columbia University in New York City by the name of Pixley Isaka Kaseme, South African. And he gave a speech at the University of Columbia entitled Regeneration of Africa. He captured and electrified New York City with that speech. Among other things, he said, I am an African. I place my pride in my race. Many men have compared races on a certain point of equality. A lot of work has been done to a point of equalizing us, but Kaseme says, I am an African. April 20, 1964. Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela appears in a court in Pretoria before a very hostile, racist judge by the name of Quartus de Wet. Who names this child Quartus? And Mandela speaks about the history of African people across the continent. And in the last paragraph, he drops the gauntlet when he says, in my lifetime, I dedicated myself to the struggle of the African people. Hear that. I dedicated my life to the struggle of the African people. I have fought against white domination, and I fought against black domination. I cherish the idea of a democratic and free society in which all persons live in harmony and with equal opportunity. Note, all persons. It is an ideal which I wish to live for and to accomplish. But if need be, my Lord, it's an ideal for which I'm prepared to die. He lifts up Africa, that in 1994, when Mandela is the first presidentially elected president of the Republic of South Africa, he appears in June to speak at the summit of the heads of state of the Organization of African Unity. And Mandela says, among other things, it is now a fact that we take the future in our hands. Now that apartheid is over, we hope that our role as South Africans will be to contribute to the new African Renaissance. We fast forward to 1998. Vice President Thabo Mbeki, or Deputy President Thabo Mbeki, launches the series of episodes and activities. You remember that, the African Renaissance, wherein he says tomorrow was another country, yesterday was another country, tomorrow is ours. And he calls for young people to stand up and claim their space in the reconstruction of the African continent. What I'm trying to argue here, ladies and gentlemen, is that it is not a coincidence that when we speak of South Africa, we speak of South Africa in different colloquium compared to the references we make when it comes to other African countries and their regions. For instance, when you hear me say West Africa, what do I mean? I don't mean one country. Senegal, Côte d'Ivoire, the Gambia, Burkina Faso, Nigeria, Niger, Benin, Mali, that is West Africa. A family of nations. North Africa, you can start with Mauritania, Tunisia, Egypt, Morocco, Libya. A family of nations, North Africa. East Africa, Ethiopia, Kenya, Sudan, Rwanda, Tanzania, a family of nations. But South Africa, there's a grammatical error. And Africa has been comfortable with that because there is a universe that we acknowledge that South Africa is somewhat unique compared to the rest of the African continent. And I'm not saying this, ladies and gentlemen, to render you jingoistic. So if you want to ask me what role South Africa can play in the Africa of today, is to strengthen the system of governance right here in the Republic of South Africa. That system of governance that will make South Africans proud to be South Africans, confident to work as South Africans, powerful to contribute as South Africans, relevant to participate in the world as South Africans, resourced to live well as South Africans, knowledgeable to have interactions and conversations and dialogues with other Africans and, for that matter, other people in the world as Africans and South Africans.